Well, we have some space related news from the White House. So, President Trump is moving the Space Command headquarters from Colorado to Alabama.
For this important announcement, 7 years in the making. As you know, this has been going on for a long period of time, and I am thrilled to report that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City. Okay, so Huntsville, Alabama, we love Alabama. I only won it by about 47 points. I don't think that influenced my decision, though, right? That didn't, right? But we had a lot of competition for this, and Alabama's getting it, Huntsville in particular. So congratulations, everybody. Katie, congratulations. This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs and probably much more than that, and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, and that's billions because it can't be millions, it's billions and billions of dollars. Most importantly, this decision will help America defend and dominate the high frontier, as they call it.
The U.S. Space Command will be located specifically in Huntsville, Alabama, and this reverses a Biden-era decision to keep it at the headquarters in Colorado Springs. Remember, the Space Force was established under the first Trump administration, and the Space Force's space commands include conducting operations like enabling satellite-based navigation and troop communication and providing warning of missile launches. And this is not random. Alabama and Colorado have been at it for a long time to claim the Space Command because, of course, it impacts the local economy significantly. But President Trump says Huntsville makes sense.
Hello, everybody. Coach Tuberville here. I am happy to share that after 4 years and countless hours spent in the Oval Office with President Trump and Secretary Hexeth, President Trump is moving U.S. Space Command back to its rightful home at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. This was never supposed to be about politics. After a thorough selection process, Huntsville was chosen as the best home for SpaceCom. In fact, 3 different Air Force secretaries, including Joe Biden's Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall, have acknowledged that Redstone Arsenal is the best home for U.S. Space Command. But unfortunately, Joe Biden made this political when he overrode the Air Force, the GAO, and the Department of Defense's Inspector General, who all confirmed Huntsville is the best location and announced he was moving it to Colorado instead. You know, it's important to remember how we got here. SpaceCom is currently located in an unsecure area in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It poses a serious national security threat and needs to be moved. In 2020, the Air Force conducted a study to determine the best site for constructing Space Command's new permanent, secure headquarters. This was an extremely thorough process that involved the consideration of 66 different bases in 24 states. In January 2021, Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama was overwhelmingly chosen as the preferred location for Space Command headquarters. This is when our nation's security took a back seat to politics. Democrats immediately complained because they didn't want Space Command moving to Alabama, and weak Joe Biden caved to their woke demands. In July of 2023, the Biden administration chose politics over national security and announced that Space Command headquarters would remain in the blue state of Colorado. Thankfully, President Trump, Secretary Hexeth, and Air Force Secretary Mink are restoring merit and integrity to the process and returning Space Command back to its rightful home in Huntsville. This will save taxpayers more than $420 million, and we couldn't be more excited to welcome the United States Space Command back to its rightful place at Redstone Arsenal in Sweet Home, Alabama.
Huntsville, also known as Rocket City, has long been home to the Army's Redstone Arsenal and NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. The Army Space and Missile Defense Command is also located in Huntsville, which is probably a good reason that I should visit Huntsville at this point because I've never been. And this back and forth between having the headquarters in Colorado Springs or Huntsville, Alabama has been going for a while. In fact, President Trump had ordered the Space Force headquarters to be moved from Colorado Springs to Huntsville in the final months of his first term in office, but Biden overturned that decision, and now Trump is reversing it again so that the Space Command will be permanently in Alabama. Now, Space Command predates the Space Force. Space Command has been based in Colorado Springs since its creation in 1985. But President Trump ordered the creation of the Space Force as a full-scale military branch in December of 2019. Now, this is a move that is going to take some time, probably cost a lot of money, and affect about 1,700 personnel working at Space Command. And Space Command is different than U.S. Space Force. They are two different entities with separate missions. The Space Command actively employs joint forces from the U.S. Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force to accomplish the command's mission. Space Command is a combatant command, a high-level group typically made up of different military branches that are responsible for specific geographic areas. Space Command's geographic coverage is the Kármán line, the internationally recognized point where Earth's atmosphere ends and outer space begins. But the Space Force organizes, trains, and equips space professionals and then prevents those forces to U.S. Space Command and other combatant commands. So the Space Force's main goals are to train and equip space personnel to protect and provide capabilities in space for the U.S. and its allies. Space Force is based in the Pentagon in Virginia, but it operates a primary field command at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado Springs. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments about this relocation. Was it necessary? Is this a waste of money, or is this a sensible decision?